Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi folks, Cesar here, back with you, and thank you for joining us again. I've got my very good friend Kevin in the house. Kevin, thanks for coming back. He's with the Brady campaign here in Northern Virginia. I like meeting you, I like talking to you, but it's always on the same topic, gun violence. When are we going to fix this? No.
There are a lot of people that have been in this for 20 and 30 years.
Yeah.
I'm just coming up on 2 years as an activist.
So you're youngin'.
Brady. I'm a youngster.
Okay.
I'm a 75-year-old youngster.
Charged up, ready to go. Appreciate what you do.
But many in the movement are saying that we're at a tipping point.
How so?
We just had the 3-year anniversary of the massacre up at Newtown, Sandy Hook. Yeah. We had over 350 people outside the NRA headquarters. Yeah. I was chanting outside, and I was shown, people sent me clips from ABC, Reuters, and Daily Mail. I mean, we have taken the initiative to the NRA, and we really believe that we're at a tipping point.
Oh. And just for clarity, verify this for me. I heard the NRA doesn't allow guns within their building. Is that true?
I've not been in the building.
Well, I heard that, and I thought, wow, a little irony there, don't you think?
Well,
let's verify that. I want to get that verified for the next segment.
I do not know.
Okay.
I also heard and would like to be able to have verified that at their recent convention, their last convention, there were no firearms allowed in the convention. No concealed carry.
Really?
Well, it's dangerous.
Oh, wait a second. You mean guns and a lot of people? Dangerous. Wow, okay. Let's come back to that.
Okay.
A little bit more of a more serious tone. Coming up on or passing the anniversaries, you mentioned the tipping point, you feel it. What's beyond there? What do you hope happens moving forward?
What we hope happens is that we replace some legislators who refuse to honor the will of the people. Mm-hmm. If you look at the statistics in the polling, those in favor of universal background checks, those in favor of keeping firearms away from people convicted of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking. Mm-hmm. And we need to get rid of the legislators who will not further that legislation, and they're there. And we will go see them in 2 weeks. On the 18th of January, we will go see them.
So they're in session, the General Assembly in Richmond. You're going to pay these folks a visit?
Yes, on if I can,
sure.
on Monday the 18th, which is great. It's Martin Luther King 24th annual Vigil and Advocacy Day to remember the victims of gun violence, and we're asking people to come because the other side turns people out. They will have many people down in Richmond on that day. And
now, will they have guns? And are they allowed to go into the General Assembly with guns?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They will. Okay. And they did. Last year was my first year there.
That's pretty wacky.
Well, not to try and can you top this? How wacky it was last year. The concealed carry and the open carry, and walking into the General Assembly building while our group with our background checks save lives are going in with American flags about on a stick about like this, and we're told we could not bring the sticks in to the General Assembly. They could be used as a weapon. Now,
Are you kidding?
I knew that would be your reaction.
Oh my God!
Cannot bring that stick in. It could be used as a weapon.
You
Never mind the Glock.
Poke someone's eye out with that. Yeah. That's what it is. Okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
on the 28th,
Wow.
come on down and join
All
us. There's a wonderful quote on the flyer I'm referring to. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
Sure.
Talking about lives that end, 37 on Christmas Day killed with guns. 37 people killed on Christmas Day. So at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday the 28th, we will have, Monday the 18th, we will have a vigil to remember the victims of gun violence outside by the bell tower. And then an hour later, and for the next 2 hours, we ask you to go into the General Assembly building and seek out your representative, your senator, and if you know of one that does not hold your view, and hopefully that view is common sense gun legislation, universal background check, no guns for domestic violence, convicted misdemeanors. If you're not comfortable confronting, then go find one that's voted along the lines that you support and thank them. So you can go either way depending on how comfortable you are with what you're asked to do.
Let's peel that back a little bit. So you're not advocating taking guns away from law-abiding citizens.
Absolutely not.
You're not advocating they not being able to continue purchasing whatever guns or weaponry they want.
Would like to see it one a month as opposed to unlimited, but no, we're not after any of those things.
So let's say I go to a gun show, and it's a private dealer or someone's bought a booth. I go and purchase a gun or rifle or whatever. Today, is there a background check on me?
If he's not a federally licensed
So that's
gun
a
dealer,
loophole you want to
close.
target. Okay.
Universal background check.
So I could be, I've heard this analogy, I could be someone who's on a no-fly list and go to a gun show in Virginia to a private dealer and buy guns.
Correct.
And there's no background check on me.
No.
Okay, so that to me is common sense. So what is the rationale or the position of someone who is not in favor of that, let's call it a common sense check?
Well, I don't see a rational thought process there. Last year after Lobby Day, I told the people that I carpooled down with that I wouldn't do this again because it was so depressing.
Really? Okay.
But I am.
Well, this is Virginia, right? I mean,
There are committees and subcommittees where bills are presented, and because of the political structure of that committee, subcommittee, the bill is tabled or otherwise killed. And it has to do with the makeup of the committee or the subcommittee.
elections matter, by the way. Elections matter.
Absolutely.
So here's the cause and effect. If you are in Virginia and you have a representative in the House and you are for common sense gun laws and that background check being the one I described, you should ask your representative how they would vote. And if they vote a different way, you may want to consider supporting them or not. Because that's where it starts.
Absolutely.
Because until you change the makeup in the General Assembly, in the House or the Senate, none of this stuff really gets changed, right?
It looks to me, and I'm not a lawyer, but it looks to me that the House is the problem. I'll go back to what got me involved, coming up, as I said, on 2 years in February. It was a bill that came out of the Senate with a vote of 29 and 6 and 5. 40 senators, 29 in favor.
In the House. I mean, in the
Senate.
Wow.
And 6 and 5. Either 6 abstained or weren't there, and 5 voted against, or the 5-6 is
So
reversed.
20
But there were 29 in favor.
Wow. That's bipartisan.
It had to be.
Yeah.
Had to be.
Yeah.
It went over to the House to a subcommittee chaired by one Rob Bell, who represents Charlottesville, who has declared himself for Attorney General. That is a scary prospect to me, because He killed that 2965 bill, which would have kept guns out of the hands of misdemeanor convicted stalkers, sexual abusers, domestic violence people.
Wow.
He killed it. I sent an email to every member of his committee and asked why. I got one response that said, "What you don't understand, Mr. Bergen, is that this is where gun bills are sent to die."
Wow.
That's not democracy.
No, it's not. And just so, I know I may be insulting some people. I just want to, the Senate has 40 state senators, right? And it's generally been split lately 20-20, Republican, Democrat. So for any bill to get 29 yays in the Virginia Senate is a pretty darn good bill.
Yes, absolutely. That's why the way it was written up in the Post caused me to say, this is not my government. This is not democracy.
Right.
And that's why I got involved. A sad note is the following year that bill was reintroduced and pared down and made, we thought, more palatable to the other side, and it didn't get as far as it got the first time.
So you got less than 29 votes in the Senate. Was there an election in between the first and the second vote?
I don't know the answer to that.
There must have been. My theory is there probably was, because that's what happens. Folks, and again, to reiterate, elections matter. So if you're going to do things and you want some change, you need to do some research in terms of who, and that's great. The other side may rally their folks and pass, and that's representative democracy. But I get the feeling that some of these common sense laws truly do transcend the parties. Witness
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who could be against keeping guns out of the hands of somebody convicted of sexual stalking and domestic violence?
See, when I ask other folks to come onto the show and help me understand their side, I don't get a lot of takers. So, but thank you for coming on, because I think we're kind of more in line with common sense laws that make us.
I agree.
A little bit more sane.
That's not a surprise.
Oh. So help me. Let's go. We'll go to some of these other pieces in the next segment. But talk to me about what you want to do in 2016 when we come back from the break. But let's talk about some of these other things that are on your top list there.
Okay.
So.
Now, or are we going to break?
We're going to go to break, but at a high level, I know you've got a bunch of things that we want to certainly accomplish. So,
all right, very good.
We'll do that, folks. And again, just for the folks at home, remember Monday, January 18th. If you can get down to Virginia, the state capitol, the General Assembly, the folks will be there. So, come back after the break, and we'll continue this very important discussion.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi, folks. Cesar here. Welcome back to our segment on gun violence. I'm here with my good friend Kevin from the Brady campaign. A lot to talk about here. Let's finish up on Monday, January 18th. Make sure people have all the information. That is the Vigil and Advocacy Day for gun violence, right?
Yes, and a good piece of information about that is we're going to have buses going down from Northern Virginia, and that's Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America.
Okay.
If you have any questions, contact Kayla Hicks at, those are Virginians for Responsible Gun Laws, and her number is 757-550-0316. Kayla Hicks, 757-550-0316.
Monday, January 18th, folks. Let's make sure we get a lot of people there.
And a neat side note to this, obviously it's a holiday, less traffic.
Sure.
Okay, you might be off from work. Your kids won't be in school. What a civics lesson. If you've got age-appropriate kids to take down there, if they want to see how their government works or doesn't,
Sure.
take them down to Richmond on the 18th of January and sit in on a committee hearing.
That's a great idea. Something that made the news recently, Attorney General Mark Herring. Full disclosure, I've donated to his campaign. We're good friends. I love him. Reciprocity. Not many people know about this, but this was big. This was big. It's got some folks pretty crazy down in different parts of the state. So he basically, correct me if I'm wrong, went forward with a little common sense. Just because you have the right in other states doesn't mean you can bring them to Virginia, correct?
Well, yes, that's correct. And it's ironic because one thing we have heard from the other side, if I can characterize it that way, is we don't need new laws. Let's just follow the laws that we have. Okay, let's do that. We have laws in Virginia that lay out what you can and cannot have in terms of what's on your record and what we know about you in order to get a concealed carry permit.
So just real quick, the domestic abusers, there are some qualifications, right?
There are. In Virginia, by Virginia law.
Okay.
Well, there are 25 states that have less than what we require for their citizens to conceal carry. Well, Attorney General Herring got with Brian Moran, the Chief of Public Safety, at the direction of the governor, and they researched Virginia law, and the law says. And so now 25 states and their citizens cannot come into Virginia with their concealed carry. And they're not happy.
Wow. and again, what the rationale being what? That if I'm from another state, Texas, New Hampshire, or some of these less dense states, what's the rationale for me being able to come into Virginia with my weaponry? What help me understand?
Because my gun goes where I go. I have a concealed carry permit. I like to have my gun for personal safety, and I don't demean or mean to put down people who have a concealed carry permit. There are many reasons to have it, and many valid and good and reasonable reasons, but not the reasons that Attorney General Herring cited in if you have this or this or this checked, you can't bring it into Virginia. You have less of a requirement in New Hampshire or Wyoming or wherever.
Now, these aren't really radical guides. These aren't really radical requirements. It's just if you've got a history of, whether it be offenses or charges or convictions, right? That he's not talking about the law-abiding citizen.
Absolutely not. No, if they meet Virginia's requirement or better, because there are states that have stricter requirements than Virginia. So if you meet Virginia's requirements, then you can bring in your concealed weapon.
Wow.
But not from the 25 states that have just been ruled out because their requirements.
Well, it's pretty frightening, and I hate to laugh at this, but Virginia's pretty it's the wild, wild west of, so to think that there are 25 other states that have
lesser
restrictions is pretty amazing to me. But okay, seems reasonable to me. What about some of these other items in terms of, we talked about some of the restrictions and how are we sort of like putting all this together in something that makes sense and presenting it to the public? What are some of the things that you guys are working on?
Well, I believe that our approach is we've identified the three bills that we would like to get some movement on. We would like to see the needle move. Because of the structure that we talked about in the House of Delegates, we're not hopeful that that will happen. But we would like to see movement at least. And that would be universal background checks. That would be not letting those convicted of domestic violence and those similar crimes that we talked about be in possession of a firearm, owned, buy, carry, transport. And the last would be one gun a month. We had one gun a month, and it was repealed. Now it's unlimited. So we would like to take those three and see some movement on those. You had mentioned research before, and I had a personal experience, I think, that speaks to this. If you're going down to Richmond, or if you can't, but you want to get involved and want to have an impact on this common sense gun legislation issue, the first thing you need to know and ask yourself is, do I know my state senator? Do I know my representatives?
Sure.
Do I know their stand on these issues? And you can find that out easily on the internet, with a telephone call, with an email, because if you don't know, then you can't find fault with what the result is in Richmond when the bill gets killed.
Right. Well, and you have to know who they are, and you have to vote. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, look, I think it's tough. By the way, who are the sponsors that you're working with on those three bills in terms of at the House? Or is there I know.
I don't know who is going to advance which bill. We will have a gathering before we go down to Richmond, and we will know the bills that we want to support. We will know the bills that we're opposed to, and that word will be disseminated. As I sit here tonight, I do not know who the sponsors of individual bills are.
I know, just personally, I know Senator Howell, Senator Favola, they tend to be forward with some of these bills. So
Senator Favola had the bill that I mentioned previously about misdemeanor that was killed in Bell's subcommittee.
I'm proud to say my senator, Senator Wexton, is a big supporter. So we got to talk to people, right? Get some common sense.
And we really need to get people out. We're not known as the side that turns the people out. The NRA, I give them reluctant credit because they will turn their people out. There will be many, many people in Richmond on the 18th with Guns Save Lives orange stickers with their gun on their hip, going in to lobby their senators and representatives. I've had a public official tell me, you guys won't move the needle until you increase your numbers. You've got to increase your numbers. So we need you to come. And if you can't come, you don't have to come on the 18th. Go down the following week if that's when you can go. And call and make an appointment and ask to get in to see whoever it is you want to see.
Do you all look at sort of the election results and kind of think back or look back at what was done? Because you've got all these every 2 years for the House and every 4 for the Senate. I mean, are you doing sort of that postmortem?
We have people that do that. We were very happy to get McPike into the Senate, and there was quite a bit of discussion on the fact that we didn't take another seat. That there was quite a bit of effort put into getting, and we did not get it. But but the gap was closed so significantly that we took heart from that, and that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a water on the rock kind of a thing. It's not going to happen in January. It's not going to happen in November.
Yeah, this is clearly a fundamental change in Richmond that you're talking about doing. It is transforming the mentality, the culture that thinks it's okay to, constantly deal with this issue over and over and do nothing about it. How many more anniversaries, how many more mass shootings need to happen? And again, we're not talking about law-abiding citizens being affected.
Not at all.
It's a segment that, for better or for worse, has fallen through the cracks through some way, that have easy access to weaponry that, quite frankly, is capable of doing a lot of damage to a lot of people very quickly.
I agree, and I believe that if we could get reliable, objective data as to how many NRA members support the position that we have on universal background checks, on one gun a month, and on restricting access to guns for people convicted of those crimes that I've mentioned, I believe the number would exceed 50% in all three of those proposed legislations of NRA members. There's no way for us to find that out, I don't think, but I think it would be enlightened. I don't know how a politician can sit there and deny that this is common sense that we're asking for.
Well, what you do is your members join the NRA. You change it from within.
That's been discussed. I think I think new members are vetted very well to see where they might become.
Well, I mean, hell, people can have different views. I mean, that's the whole point of, representation. If I'm a member, I paid my money, I paid my dues. I want to voice my opinion. And if it's not the case, then that's a different, separate issue. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on again.
My pleasure.
I want the day to come where we can, report on some bigger progress.
Victory, at least, even if it's one bill.
Slowly.
One bill.
Slowly we'll get there.
Okay.
Folks, thank you again for joining us. Coming up in the next segment, our tribute to the year-end volunteer efforts. We'll be right back.